This meeting is being recorded.
Really excited to have a space and time now. We have a lot of volunteers here today, and at the new office on the roundabout in Dallas. And Brooke is now here, and we figured out how to record our little interview here about finding our community. So we are going to get started, and I am your host of some sort, Lindsay Dragon, and I will turn it over to Brooke Gold.
Perfect. Okay, so today we're just going to chit chat about community, the benefits, a couple of different options for either virtual meeting places if meeting in person is a little bit too hard, a little bit too stressful, and then just a generic list of places to go for inclusion, acceptance, and also to find activities and groups in your community. So everyone's community is different, so I'm not going to give you a list, but I will give you a generic list of things to try to look into and then see where you can go from there, because you have to go find your community. I can't give it to you.
And this is something that when we get into being further established with our new location, it's called community mapping.
Okay.
In some respect, as where you take your own community and you map it so that your adult or child with autism then knows where the bank is, knows where the grocery store is. And this is part of that community mapping. Where can you go to socialize and to engage with your community? So that'll be something, that's always something we're working towards.
Yeah.
And it starts with a small piece of the puzzle. Was not an autism awareness puzzle piece reference, but it just turned out to be that way. Because there's a lot of contention about that these days. So I catch myself saying that all the time. Anyhow, so it's almost similar to a podcast, like interview that we're doing, but with the PowerPoint, and you're going to share what you find, and I'll be commenting in throughout, and this will be on YouTube and other social media outlets with a link to YouTube. And then we can always answer questions in the future, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's get going.
Right. So I'm just going to give a real quick introduction. We all know that autism is characterized by social differences. Social interactions look a little bit different. They may feel a little bit different for individuals with autism, but that doesn't mean community, relationships, friendships are not important to autistic individuals and for them. So in a little bit, we're going to go over some of the generic health benefits for having relationships and why it's so important to push for relationships for our kiddos and for anyone that we know who has autism.
Yeah.
So some ASD specifics is that for children, 34% of autistic children have at least one friend. So in children, they tend to have friends. It doesn't mean that they are a neurotypical friend. It doesn't mean if it's a neurodivergent friend. They have at least one friend. And that could be due to siblings. That could be due to them being in school full time. That could be to them doing recreational activities. In young children, you're exposed to a lot of people. And as you get older, that exposure goes down and down and down. So we see children have a higher tendency to have some type of friendship, some type of close companionship. And then when you get into autistic adults, you tend to see that they prefer to interact with other autistic adults. And that could be because they have similar experiences, similar communication styles. They understand, look, I'm not going to text you every 24 hours. I may text you every 2 weeks. And you have to be okay with that. I have to be okay with that. And we still understand. We're still friends, but it doesn't look as it may look with two neurotypicals.
Yeah.
And then as we get further into adulthood, roughly 9% of autistic adults are married, and 32% say that they have a romantic partner. I have asterisks by this statistic because there's not any really good statistics on marriage and relationships in older autistics.
Yeah.
So this one I found, it wasn't from the most trusted source.
Yeah, the research behind it isn't that old.
No, it's not.
Everything we're doing, I feel, is for the first time, or it's just
We're learning as we go.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, all the research is in children, young adolescents, and once they hit that 18-year mark, it's gone.
And is that because of low participation in things to take data on?
Yep, it could be low participation. It could be services cut out in a lot of places at 18, and there's no push as much for
it's harder
adult
to push
research.
An adult to do something than it is to push your fourth grader.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that's also going into it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so like I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of relationships and how it actually affects your health. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It doesn't have to be a sibling relationship. It doesn't have to be a best friend. It doesn't have to be an acquaintance. It just has to be some type of social relationship you have. It could be your mailman that you see every day at 10 a.m. and you have a quick, hi, how are you? You talk for 3 minutes about your dogs. Great. That's still a relationship.
The weather. Mailmen,
exactly.
Mailmen love to talk about the weather.
Yeah, they're out in it all day, every day. So with relationships and health, having friends and close relationships is correlated with lower rates of depression. Makes sense. But it's also correlated with lower rates of death from all causes in all categories.
Oh, wow.
So just having relationships gives you a better and longer life expectancy, regardless of what the health issue may be, even if it's car accidents. If you have friends, you have relationships, higher chance of living.
That's crazy.
And there is some research talking about how having friendships can also reduce chronic illnesses, heart conditions. Again, it's all across the board. If you have relationships, it increases your lifespan. So I
need to get more friends.
I do too, especially after this. So without friendships or with poor quality friendships, you are twice as likely to die prematurely.
Oh my gosh.
Again, it's a simple thing that can be very easily overlooked, but it actually affects your life expectancy.
Yeah.
And that's something I didn't know about before doing this research. I'm sure a lot of people listening in, a lot of people who find parenting autism and find this may not know.
Well, and think about it. Whenever you have an adult with autism who is, chronologically 32 years old.
Yeah.
Developmentally, they could be a 13-year-old or 6 or who knows? It could be anywhere. And it's so awkward to see some of these behaviors in an adult. But at the same time, they're human beings.
Yeah.
Or we're all human beings. And you need these relationships, whether they realize it or not. But having to deal with a teenager for an extra amount of years is no fun for anyone.
No.
So that'll be interesting to see it.
And so, again, bouncing onto that premature death, research suggests that loneliness, not having social interactions, regardless of the intensity, can increase premature death by 26%.
It's a huge, is it called a pandemic or epidemic now, is loneliness?
There is some research going into about Americans specifically, how we are reporting we have less and less friends. And this started years before the pandemic. So we can't say COVID-19 caused us all to be isolated and we don't have friendships. It started with the big kick up with social media. And there's some research on that, which we're not getting into.
Is common sense.
Yes. And so there's a lot of research on that I didn't go into details with, but there is some correlation with social media, and the quality and the quantity of our friendships is going down year by year by year. And this is happening across the globe, not specifically in Americans, but really any country that has social media and it's prevalent in everyone's lives.
Wow. That's awesome to hear those stats. That's crazy.
And so as I mentioned earlier, casual interactions with acquaintances and strangers is still correlated with happiness and overall higher life expectancies, higher quality of life. Even if it is just talking to your mailman, you have to have those social interactions as often as possible.
I mean, everyone's got to eat.
Exactly.
Instead of going through the drive-through, go inside and talk to the cashier. I know all my ladies at the Burger King drive-through.
You do?
I do. And I have for years. And I see them and we smile. We enjoy it. They went through both my pregnancies with me.
And that's what you guys connect on, even though it's not an intimate relationship.
Yeah.
You guys can still be like, hey, I saw you last week. How's so-and-so doing?
Yeah.
And it's just a quick back and forth that's going to have you have a longer lifespan for you and them.
That's crazy. That's funny.
Okay, so where is the community? So there are two primary ways that people can find community. It's either in person or it's virtually. The great thing about us having so much access to electronics and everything in that realm is that we can access people all across the globe. If we are having a hard time finding someone in our school who has the same interests as us, that doesn't mean we can't find them 3 states over, a city over, across the globe. We can still find those relationships that we are searching for. Even if it's on a very niche topic, you can still find that community out there.
Yeah.
And so, of course, with any type of community you have, there's going to be risks. There's going to be benefits. That's going to happen. We're not going to go into it too much today, but of course, there's always going to be risks involved with any type of community involvement you have.
Well, any relationship anywhere.
Yeah, that too. I mean, we have that going on with like online dating. There's risks involved, but there's also a list of benefits. You have to weigh the pros and cons and figure out what's best for you in certain environments, certain settings. All right, so virtually, I have a couple different app recommendations that I found that maybe everyone hasn't come across quite yet. So the first one I have is,
You're gonna find out how you
I know,
say it.
I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this correctly. I believe it's pronounced Hiki, but we're going to double check to make sure that we're pronouncing it correctly. It's a Hawaiian word, so my pronunciation is probably different than how it should be pronounced. And unfortunately, the website did not have a pronunciation that I could use.
I was looking at the frequently asked questions.
Okay.
Let's see. Hiki app.
Mm-hmm.
Pronunciation.
Yeah.
Pronunciation. As we're talking about how technology is destroying lives everywhere.
But it's beneficial right here.
Is that it there?
Yes.
All right, so let's see what it says. How to say Hiki.
Everyone, greetings. Well, today you will see the pronoun.
I don't know if it's going to get us the right one. Hiki.
Okay, so we're right. It's Hiki.
Yeah, Hiki.
So this has specifically was designed by autistic individuals for autistic individuals.
That's amazing.
It is.
From
And
Hawaii.
it came from the Hawaiian word. I'm not sure if it originated in Hawaii, but that's where they took the word from.
Okay.
And the word Hiki means tribe in Hawaiian. So their big thing is finding your tribe. So this app gives great opportunities to find relationships, friendships, and community in general. So if you're looking for a romantic partner, check out Hiki. If you're looking for a friendship, check out Hiki. If you want to just find someone to talk to, check it out. It's free on any iOS and Android devices. There's no membership cost. It's pretty similar to any social media platform. You make a profile, you kind of write down what you're interested in, and it will use an algorithm to kind of match you and show you different groups that you may be interested in.
Very cool.
So at the bottom, I have the mission statements for all of the apps for everyone to see. I also have the links included that you can copy and paste, or you can click on the link if it's available. So you can go look at it, see if it's something that you're interested in, maybe your child's interested in, maybe your adult child's interested in. So at Hiki, their mission is clear. It's to make it easier for autistic adults to make meaningful connections, develop relationships, and find community in a space that gets us, nothing for us without us. So it is geared towards neurodivergence, and it's a great app to connect with different people.
Yeah. I can't wait to check that out.
Absolutely. And it's wonderful because they make sure it's a safe space. They have all these different regulators who are going through and making sure there isn't any bullying going on. There isn't any predators or anything going on. It's monitored very closely to make sure it's a safe place for individuals.
Intense and also just shocking that a lot of bullying in the autism socials comes from other individuals with autism. And I mean, I think that's just anywhere you go.
Yeah.
If you're an athlete, you get bullied by other athletes. It's just, you're in a like setting. So, but people don't seem to understand that that is a possibility.
Yeah.
When we're talking about bullying in general, which we're not today, but it can come from anywhere. And that's something that we always touch on. So, okay.
Yeah. All right. So the next one is Meetup. So this one is not specific to individuals with autism or neurodivergence in any way, but it's a really great app to find special interest groups, and you can connect through that. So they have a great search platform where you can either search for groups or topics that you're interested in. So if you're
Like
interested,
countries.
Exactly. And it'll do location. So if you want someone in your current area, so right now we're in Dallas, PA, type in Dallas, PA, and just see what's around you.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a specific topic, if you want to talk about planting, if you want to talk about vacuums, it doesn't matter what you want. Trains.
Planes.
You can find a group, or if you
Yeah.
don't see a group you want, you can create your own group.
Oh,
and
that's
then it will
cool.
connect you to people who have similar interests.
That is awesome.
It is.
Have you ever come across this before you were researching this topic?
Meetup specifically, I haven't. The next one coming up, I haven't heard about. Hickey, I have heard about because I
Okay.
do follow different individuals with autism, and they have talked about it
Oh, wow.
either romantically or just as a way to connect with other people, because it is so hard for adults with autism to connect with other people,
Right.
because the world isn't the friendliest place, and sometimes the world is stressful and it's a little bit too hard, too challenging for them to come out.
What I do hear a lot is somebody doesn't mind, who's neurotypical. A lot of times they don't mind talking with anyone, but when the person you're talking to only wants to talk about Super Mario
Yeah.
for 4 hours, and that's every time you see him, it's not really appropriate.
Yeah, it's hard, and especially if you don't have the same interest or you don't have the same.
Well, you might have an
knowledge.
interest, but maybe not at that intense level.
And so it makes it hard to maintain that friendship. You may
Yeah.
connect immediately because you're like, oh my gosh, they know so much about this topic too. But maybe one party gets tired of talking about it every single time, and that friendship fades very quickly.
So from watching Love on the Spectrum, I love the fact that they put on there their likes and dislikes.
Yeah.
So I wonder if unfortunately this does exist, similar to Facebook and other social media platforms, where we have a similar dislike for something. So I'm wondering if they have that on there. I'm hoping it's more positive than that. But
it is definitely geared towards more positive experience.
Good.
However, I'm sure in Meetup, if you have something where you're advocating against something, you may be able to find it out there. I don't know. I didn't look for that.
It could be not anything negative, but
Yeah.
I really dislike slime.
And I can say,
like that.
I don't like slime.
I know.
Sticky, gets stuck in my nails. I don't like it. And that's something we can talk about and bond over.
No, that's interesting. I can't wait to check these out.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one, same thing, available on iOS, Android devices, completely free of charge. You just hop in, search what you want to search, and see if there's a group available for you.
Very cool.
And so their mission statement is people use Meetup to meet new people, learn new things, find support, get out of their comfort zones, and pursue their passions together.
Very cool.
So the last app we're going to talk about is Caboose. So this one is geared towards neurodivergent in general. So you don't have to be specifically autistic. You don't have to be neurodivergent in order to be part of this group. They are open to everyone, but they are a little bit more geared towards the neurodivergent experience.
Okay.
So here, they have opportunities to find mentors, jobs, tribes, groups that you can join based off of common interest, common location, anything that you have in common with them.
That's awesome.
So for this one, you do have to pay a subscription fee, but what they do is they use your profile to match you with similar profiles. So if you say, I like jelly beans, I don't like slime, maybe they'll match you on someone who also likes jelly beans, and maybe they don't like slime. I don't know specifically. They have a do not like section, but they will take your profile, your information, and match you with someone similar to build that connection for you, take the work off of you, and just like, okay, here's someone who has similar interests. Do I want to reach out and take it a step further, or do I not want to? completely up to you, but they take the legwork out of finding people. They kind of match you with people.
Do you know how much the subscription was?
It's located on their website. I believe it was only a couple dollars
Oh,
a month, or it could have been a couple dollars for like a yearly membership.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it wasn't
Super affordable.
Yeah, I believe 10 or less. I just don't have the number off the top
No,
of my
that's
head.
still super affordable.
Incredibly affordable. We pay subscriptions monthly for Netflix, which is getting higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
And they were very transparent on their website. I just don't have the number
No.
memorized off the
I
top
mean,
of my
just
head.
having a general idea is,
Mhm.
I mean, as long as it's not like $300.
No, it was very
because
affordable.
then I can't imagine people using it as
Mhm.
much. So, okay. Very cool, though.
And so their mission statement is Caboose is a community app for autistic and neurodiverse people to connect with peers around interests, find mentors, find friends, and jobs, which I like the jobs part because it's hard
Yeah.
for individuals with special needs or special accommodations to find employment or even search for employment because they get turned down so quickly.
Unfortunately, my mind never stops. And I think we just recently got a grant for a smart board.
Mhm.
And I think when we do our teen socials or adult socials, we have these apps on our thing and create a profile
Mhm.
and help families learn about it and creating their own profiles.
Yeah.
And that way we can show them how to do it interactively, hopefully,
Mhm.
and have that be part of, because this is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
And
of
these are
it's
things
amazing.
that you don't hear about. It's not openly accessible. I've never seen a commercial for it. And so
No.
when I did the research, I found Caboose, I found Meetup. Hickey, the only reason I found that was by following people who used it, or else I never would have heard of
Well,
it.
and I mean, really, it only helps, I feel, a lot of times, especially with people wanting to be engaging with, like, in person is what we need more of.
Mhm.
So if only one or two people have it, you're not going to be doing too much.
Yeah.
So in sharing it and helping them set up their profiles here,
Mhm.
and, our kiddo just lost his cell phone for a little while. So,
Mhm.
really working with the parents to help them help moderate what their kids or adults who are still in their care are on. I mean, it sounds pretty safe
Mhm.
and
Absolutely.
positive, and we want to stick with that.
Yeah, and again with Caboose, it's a little bit different than the other apps where you can have parental controls because it's not specifically for adults. You don't have to be 18 or older. I believe they ask for like 13 years old.
Okay.
So yeah, you may still need some parent guidance, and so they can join you and help you go through it, make sure people are safe for you, a good match for you, and they can kind of just have parental controls, same thing like some social media apps are doing now to make sure our kids are safe.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now we're going to go into the physical relationships, the physical locations that you can find your community. This is going to be very generic because everyone's community is different, but I did want to throw out some ideas for everyone. So the great part about autism awareness and autism acceptance is that businesses are starting to adapt that model and implement it. So with the awareness and the acceptance growing, there are a lot of places who are doing sensory hours or providing sensory rooms for individuals who need it or want it. So a new thing that just came out with Walmart is every Walmart in the US has sensory hours from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. every single day.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so the general idea I got is that they lower the music as much as possible. They try to turn anything like sensors off. So if you're walking through a sensor, it's not beeping at you, just to make it a better experience, because grocery stores are chaotic in the first place. And if we can reduce some of that sensory input, that's amazing.
Well, I have a lot with that. First of all, I love that they're doing this nationwide, globally, however they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wonder, I almost want to go like as a secret shopper or like a private detective and see if it is actually being done.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out where a sensor is, not to put anything on blast, but just to see if it's really happening.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these things are PR, things, and I'm not saying that is what it is for Walmart, but a lot of programs are here, and then they can't continuously keep them going, so they just fizzle out, but nothing ever actually stopped. So I'm very interested and intrigued to see how that is going. And also there was something else there that I was like, ooh, and I lost it.
That's
So
all right.
that'll be next time.
Yeah.
But that is absolutely amazing.
It's incredible and it's new, so we're going to see how it develops and unfolds and see what the issues are and how they address it and see what stores follow in their footsteps.
Yeah.
So I know while I was doing some research around this specific location is Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It's doing a similar program in Target on Saturdays.
Oh, wow. On Saturdays.
I believe it
Holy
was.
smokes, how's that even possible?
They do it first thing in the morning.
Yeah. Okay.
So similar, they're trying to reduce the sensory input as much as possible. It's new in Pennsylvania. It's not across the board, across all the states, but they are trying to make it more sensory friendly.
And I did remember what I was going to say. It just takes me a minute because I'm getting old. But stores like Walmart and Target, where individuals aren't as comfortable, especially now when you can order anything from Amazon.
Yeah.
And you can call in your order ahead of time and just pick it up or even have it delivered.
Yep.
Stores like those two, and Walmart in particular, I don't know if Target's there yet. I mean, you can get your tires changed, you know, at Walmart. But it's a one-stop shop for an individual with autism to make fewer trips who may have trouble transitioning or just navigating their space if they're if they don't have their own transportation, they're taking public transportation. It cuts down on costs. I mean, there's so many benefits to this. I feel like we could do this forever.
We really
just
could
talk like this forever.
Yeah.
I love it.
And so another thing is there are a lot of sensory rooms being either put into U.S. airports or they're developing spaces to create those sensory rooms. I know I recently traveled multiple states, and every state I went to, they had a sensory room available, and that's amazing.
Girls, send me some pictures.
I will.
Yes.
So that's something that the U.S. is working on doing.
That's awesome.
It's not a lot, but we are making steps in the right direction. So hopefully a couple years down the road, there'll be more and more and more.
It's one of the scariest moments for a lot of kids on the spectrum is flying. And sometimes you just got to fly.
Yeah.
And you can only hope that they're ready for us.
And that could be a topic we definitely talk about in the future. Okay, so like I said, I just have a generic list of different locations and activities that have great sensory experiences and are tailored towards children because if your children is upset, it's a child's space. All children are going to be upset, but there's also activities for social interactions for age groups as you mature and age out of maybe school and children activities. You still have ways to engage with people in your community and have those social interactions. So of course we have children museums. They're geared for children. They're going to accept your child running, screaming, crying. That's what they're there for. Zoos, petting zoos, aquariums, great place to get sensory input. Aquariums tend to be a little bit quieter, so that's great if your kiddo needs a quieter space,
and darker
space. Exactly. And it's
I feel calmer just talking about it.
Yeah. Public libraries, they have a lot of books. If your kid's a reader, they like to look at pictures, they can pull a book off the shelf. Okay, I like this one. Maybe putting it back, maybe not, but we have a librarian that we can return the book to.
And I do feel that libraries have changed now that they kids have gotten to do so much on technology. When they do go there, it's a real experience.
It is.
It's no longer like when we were growing up. I always had a blast, so this didn't pertain to me, but I always felt like it was like wah wah wah.
Yeah.
It's not like that anymore.
No, and they're creating children's spaces so that way if the kids want to run around and talk a little bit louder, scream a little bit, okay, great, they're in a designated space that they can, and that's great for them. Public parks where you can go and typically they're fenced in or they have a playground for children to go to. That's a great free option. Once you get there. Hey, let's go to the park. Let's play. Let's interact with kiddos if they're there, especially on a good sunny day that we don't get very often.
Right. Especially up here.
Arcades are great. A lot of sensory input for your kiddos who want that. There's lights, there's sounds. It's sometimes a little bit darker. There's a lot of movement. There's toys and arcades that you kind of like ride on the motorcycle. That's fun.
Well, and I don't think a lot of people realize that just because you have autism doesn't mean you can't enjoy those sensory things. My child seeks those out. And the only trouble that we have when we go to arcades is that he doesn't understand when something isn't working, so it's out
Yeah.
of order.
Mhm.
And then of course we start scripting the Wreck-It Ralph.
Mhm.
We're out of order.
Mhm.
But outside of that, we know if we're not going bowling,
Mhm.
let's just pick a table by the arcade because that's where we're going to be.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Mhm. So like trampoline parks, that's a fun
Oh, yeah.
one.
And they always have the arcades too.
Yes. Malls are great, especially if you want some social interaction, but maybe you want limited social interaction. Go when the mall opens, but the stores are not quite open. There's usually a 1 to 2 hour window where the mall building is open, but the stores aren't quite open. So you can go and you are still seeing people. You may be able to get to the store a little bit early, but you also have a giant place indoors to run, go up and down the stairs, go to the park if the mall has a park there.
Yeah.
And that's a great option to be outside. It's a free activity that you can do.
Yeah.
There's
I
people
miss
around.
malls. They're all
They're going
kind of going away.
Mhm.
But they have those big buildings. They're not demoing them. They're turning them into other things.
Yeah.
They should turn one into just a big sensory, like not sensory, but like a kid's place. That would be
Mhm.
amazing.
It would be really cool.
And they'd get a ton of people there,
Yeah.
I think.
It's a lot of space.
Let's
a lot
take it
of
over.
different
Let's
groups.
just do it.
Yeah, we can do that. So gearing a little bit more towards older individuals, but also younger individuals, recreational teams. There are so many different groups out there. If your kiddo likes a specific sport, get them into a sport that they already like. If they haven't tried a sport, let them go and try things out. Some recreational teams are free, minimal charge. Some of them can be more expensive. So you just have to look into the area and what you can financially afford.
Well, I also think of like explaining the situation,
Mhm.
having that open dialogue. Like, listen, this we're really trying it out, and we don't want to put in hundreds of dollars
Yeah.
we just want to see,
Mhm.
and seeing if someone will work with you that way. I think that would go a long way.
Yeah, and I believe I have listed in here, but I did some research and there are a lot of adaptive recreational teams that are geared towards either physical disabilities,
Challenger
intellectual
leagues,
disabilities, challenges, so that way they're
Top
still
soccer,
involved.
yeah.
Yeah, Top Soccer was one of them that I looked into, and they're out there
Mhm.
and they will have that flexibility of like, come try it. You may like it, you may not.
And the colleges, all of the teams that we've been able to work with through the local colleges here, Misericordia, Wilkes, Kings, I'm sure Marywood and the University of Scranton would do it too.
Mhm.
But because we're in Luzerne County, those are the ones that are popping up because we've used them
Mhm.
and we've gone to them.
Mhm.
So we know that they exist. And I'm telling you, the programs are just amazing
Mhm.
because my child fell in love with the field.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what's on there. He loves that field.
Mm-hmm.
And the swimming, the aquatics programs
Yeah.
are just left and right. That's what draws our kids there. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's engaging.
It is. Of course, in schools, you have school sports, school clubs, school activities, which are great. And you're around peers that you already know, maybe from classes or walking past them in the hallway.
Yeah.
And you can bond on the simple fact that you go to the same school.
Yeah, and that's definitely for high schools. I think the unified sports stuff
Mhm.
I don't fully understand it yet because my son just turned 10.
Mhm.
But I wish we would be able to start it earlier. But I know it has all sorts of rules with the PIAA and all the acronyms.
Yeah.
So it's so confusing, but I feel like we're missing a huge opportunity
Mhm.
to get these kids interested in a sport at an earlier age.
Yes.
Because they can't start till high school, right? Or is it junior high or high school for unified sports? I'm not sure.
I believe junior high, but I think it depends.
But
School
kids
district by
already know
school
what they
district.
want to do by then.
Mm-hmm. And you want to expose them while they're young and see what they like. Try several
And I think
different
there's
things
rules
out.
where the high school kids wouldn't be able to. I don't know. This is something we're looking into. The high school kids were not able to like buddy up with the younger kids for some reason, and I just
there's a lot of rules and regulations.
I
Which
know.
put a damper
Throw
on
the rule
everything.
book out the window. Let's do
Some
this.
of them. Yeah. Of course, you can always look into local community events.
Right.
What's going on in
The
community
YMCA's
has lists and lists of activities that they're doing. Parenting Autism has lists of what's happening in and around the general area, so that way you can see if something is interesting or if it works in your time
right.
when you're available after work, before work, weekends, whatever,
Mhm.
and see if community events can get you connected with someone with similar interests. Same thing, church events.
Yeah.
Even if you're not religious, a lot of churches give different events and they do different activities, and they're open to the public. They want people to come in and experience that regardless of your religious beliefs. They have a lot of free events.
It's about being a good person and bringing the community together.
Absolutely. And then the last one I included is equine therapy and riding, because I've worked with that and I've seen the benefits of children and adults, regardless of what is going on, if it's an emotional, if it's PTSD from our combat soldiers.
Yeah.
There is so much good research and there's so many beautiful stories out there of the relationship between animals and people. And I can recommend at least 2 different riding academies.
Well, I was going to say, we're in Dallas and Serendipity is literally right down the road. And then the other one, it's in Allentown, right?
Yeah. Manito Equestrian Center. They have an entire program for equine therapy. And I've seen so many different people there and they love it. And they are fully run for equine therapy. But they also have the added bonus. If you just want to go and ride for fun, great. But they're tailored and trained
and
for
it's
therapy.
so cool because anytime you're on a farm like that, there's typically other things like a garden and other animals. But you even, I mean, that's where the job experiences can come in. And it's so much more fun than going to actual work.
Yes. It's very fun, and it's like a giant playground and you're with animals, and typically they have
that sixth sense or whatever.
Yes. And there's so much research on there that I could talk all day about.
Yeah.
But it's a great option if you've never thought about it.
Yeah.
And from the one center I went to, the horses were trained, the staff were trained that even if your kiddo becomes aggressive, nothing bad is going to happen. The horses are okay with it. They're giant animals, hundreds and hundreds of pounds. They can handle a punch. They're okay. And so that's a good safe.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. And so that's why I like to say it, because some people may back out because they're not sure if it's a safe environment. If you find the right place with the right programs, it can be an incredibly safe environment.
Well, and they also, I know that the Serendipity location, they offer ESY services. And I don't think with ESY, it's not about riding the horse. It's about learning about the farm and things like that. But that's your gateway into seeing if your child is interested in it. And I'm sure, they run programs all year long. And if you're there for ESY, you could easily see what their schedule is and do that on your own time.
Yeah. So it's a great option if nobody has thought about it before.
Yeah. Super cool.
And so now I'm just going to open it up for general questions. If you have any questions that have been asked in the past, we'll just chit chat about it.
So the number one thing that I hear from parents of kids who are going from elementary school to middle school and obviously continuing their education is their lack of friendships. But, and you see it whenever a family is first diagnosed, after they get through almost the grieving period. After they get through that, they throw themselves into everything and they're part of all these programs, but then it just fizzles out because it is hard to get a teen to get out of bed. We just had a teen social and you can't be social if nobody's there. But as a teen, I didn't want to get up and go have coffee and talk to people. So, but it's hard to have a coffee. I mean, I guess you could, I don't drink coffee. So to me, I consider it like a morning thing. I guess you could go anytime, right?
I do.
So maybe we schedule the socials later in the afternoon and see if that helps. So like maybe I'm not a morning person and I don't have autism and I don't drink coffee. Like none of that would be appealing to me.
So it's not a good fit for you.
Right.
But maybe adjusting the hours or services, the food and beverages option.
But that's the thing. It's taking something and trying to realize that individuals with autism engage still socially, but it just might look different from what we're used to. So really the engaging piece too is that once people stop going to programs, they stop existing. So the faith in the programs seems to, just fizzle away. but they fizzle away because people aren't going to them.
Yeah.
So it's that, and it's really hard to tell a family, especially when you have any type of disability, but autism in particular, you need to get out of your house more.
Yeah.
What are the effects that you came across, if any, of what happens, like even just your own personal, opinion, when you just don't leave your house?
Well, like I kind of talked about earlier, there's the health effects of
Right.
just
You're gonna live longer, so get out.
Yeah, absolutely. You run the risk of having different medical disorders or diseases, diagnoses, because you're not interacting. And we don't fully understand why our body reacts that way, but we do know, blanket statement, humans are social animals.
Right.
We need that social interaction to be healthy. And absolutely, I've seen it with one of my previous kiddos that I worked with. They were in middle school, getting ready to go to high school, and they really struggled making friends and maintaining friendships. And so with that kiddo in particular, they started having imaginary friends at a much older age.
Oh, wow.
And it was a little bit concerning to the parents because they're wondering, is something else going on? Is my kiddo showing schizophrenic tendencies? And so they went through the whole evaluation process, and it just boiled down to they don't have any social interactions. They're stuck at home all day, every day. And this is how they're getting those interactions, which is incredibly sad.
Yeah.
But even if it's you don't want to be out in public, even having those back and forth relationships online is at least giving you that back and forth, and you can still have friendships. I have friendships states away that I haven't seen in years, but I still call them, I still text them, I'll FaceTime them, and we're still connected because we do reach out to each other.
So when Brooke walked in today, there was a menagerie of things happening in the office. We had 2 different sets of volunteers here, and I also had both of my children, ages 10 and 8. And my 10-year-old, who's on the spectrum, was being exceptionally loud. And I was like, there's absolutely no way we can do anything until their dad comes and picks them up, because he's not even out of work yet. And then, you have volunteers here who are helping us do things. But they had their son with autism here as well. And it's really tough to focus when somebody is constantly being loud, and if it's not something that you're used to, you may not know how to handle that. And I think that's what scares away more neurotypical individuals. But I've seen like we were saying, autism, and people with autism can easily be bullies themselves. One thing, if you don't know this yet, but there are probably more dislikes than likes that a person with autism can express. They know what they like, some of, but they really know what they don't like. And whatever was happening today, my son did not like it. But that's got to be hard to have, like, hey, let's go. Can you be friends with him, please? Like, he's just going to scream at you all day is kind of how it comes off. So one of the things we really want to focus on is with our buddy and mentor program is how can we, and we're developing it. So how can we help neurotypical individuals be friends, genuine friends, not volunteers. Like, how can we show them how to interact and be friends and have that social piece? Because you're in school together. What makes you think you're not going to be in work together and in other things, together? You're going to see each other at the grocery store. You're going to be interacting because it's one community.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's a big push going on about the old way of doing things is the autistic person needs to adapt to the world. We are trying to change that as much as possible to where the world also needs to adapt to include and accept individuals with autism as they are.
Yeah, when a plant isn't growing correctly, you don't change the plant, you change the environment it grows in.
Yeah, so even if we're trying to have neurotypicals become friends with neurodivergents, or at least be open to that experience, is bringing more awareness of like, what is autism? What does it look like? What are multiple examples? Because every autistic is different. There is no blanket statement on what they do, what they like, how they act. It's very individual.
And with all these different movements going around, I know there's a large push from individuals on the spectrum who, aren't a fan of the puzzle piece because of many reasons. One being it's tied to Autism Speaks, and a lot of people don't, prefer that organization. But also because they say they're not a mystery that needs to be solved. There's nothing wrong with them. And then you get me as a parent. I'm like, where am I going? Do you see any puzzle pieces? Because that means I'm in the right spot.
Yeah.
But now with the infinity sign, there's issues with that. And for me, as an individual who may probably have a diagnosis themselves, but for my son, nobody else can speak for my son.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he has a problem with that. But what I do know is that if there's always going to be something contentious about it, people don't want confrontation.
Yeah, absolutely.
The people who do go for it, we say, it's like, oh, we don't want to do that. It's going to be a long night.
Yeah.
Let's leave Becky at home. But it's just trying to figure it out. It's just hard.
It is hard. And unfortunately, there's not a correct answer.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own opinion on whatever symbol they use, or if they even choose to use a symbol.
Well, yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they are a person. They have their own interests. They have their own talents. They have their own struggles like every other person has.
Yeah.
And it's just connecting with them and accepting them as a person. And you may not have the same interests, but you can still be friends with someone even though you're not 100% perfect matches.
It's not difficult to be a friend to somebody.
No, and it's not difficult to be nice and include and see what happens. Nothing may happen, and that's okay. But something beautiful could happen.
Well, and I think a lot of a trait that my son has that a lot of individuals have on the spectrum is that they struggle socially, understanding social cues and things like that. So he could say, "Get out of my way, please." Now, he said it in a tone where I say to my husband all the time, it's not what you said, it's how you said it.
Yeah.
He knows, though, but my son doesn't understand that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he said, please. He voiced everything. I'm like, good job, buddy. But to somebody who doesn't understand, it's like, well, screw you.
Yeah. But it's no different than me secretly being moody and you don't know about Jersey. How are you? I'm like, I'm miserable.
Right.
It's like, I'm not truly miserable. I'm not truly a miserable person, but in this moment, I answered you in a way that may rub you the wrong way. Why can't we give grace to kiddos who may socially interact differently?
Yeah.
And that's wonderful about them. They're going to be point blank period. Here's the facts. Here's what's going on. If you like me, great. If you don't, okay, also great. I don't care.
And I think that's one thing that the beauty that a lot of people miss about autism in particularly is that when my son is happy, he is happy with every fiber of his being, head to toe. When he's sad, it's a sobbing sad.
Yes.
I can tell a fake cry when he's just trying to get, out of going to school that day.
Yeah.
That is not, but when he's really sad, it is the most horrible feeling in the world because he feels it with every fiber of his body. When he's angry, that's why when they explode like that, it's because when they feel something, they feel it through and through. And I think a lot of people don't understand that because we're taught to wait until we get home. You might be upset, but don't show it. One of my interview questions I'll never forget when I started as an adult trying to get jobs, if you're having a bad day, are we going to be able to tell? And your answer always had to be absolutely not. I don't carry things from, my personal life into my professional life. That's not how individuals with autism work. Yeah. And most people are not going to be comfortable with that.
And that's not for the autistic person to change. That is who they are. They are 100% authentic.
I just clapped.
And what I call autistic individuals is that they value friendships differently because they are never going to lie to you. They're not going to say, oh, I don't like the person you're dating, so I'm going to be passive aggressive about it. No, they'll tell you straight up, I like them, I don't like them. And
that shirt
you know,
makes you look really fat, Mom.
Yeah, and it may not be the best approach, and you may not take it the right way, but it doesn't matter. They were completely honest with you, and that friendship is authentic to its core. It's not a fake friend. You don't have to worry about that.
Well, and that's something with school. You know, we're past the age where we invite the whole class.
Yeah,
because that was just unaffordable, and it's just not where anyone does anymore. Once they reach a certain age. So, but to find out who his real friends are, I have to start asking who is doing it genuinely, who is being around him, not because they want him to like them more than the other girls or because whatever.
Yeah.
There were two kids out of 23 that we say are genuine friends. And that's not a problem.
No.
I'm glad that there were two. I can't tell you if I had any genuine friends in 4th grade. I mean, I still keep in contact with one now, but then she wasn't, you know. I had friends. Yeah. But it's just crazy. But with autism in particular, it's scrutinized because the main job of anyone working with you is to take data on your behavior. You are scrutinized and stared at and documented every second. And then you go home and your parents are doing it there. And then you go to a therapy and they're doing it there. Then you go to a Challenger Sport and all the parents are talking. We can't ever not talk about it. Yeah. And I think that's what needs to change as well.
Absolutely.
Because I don't want to hang out with doom and gloom left and right. But am I doom and gloom left and right? Probably. I mean, I try not to be. At least let's make it funny. Yeah. You know, but when it comes down to it, I can get fired up in a second. You know? So just by hearing what happened to somebody else's IEP. And that's not what we're here at soccer for. Yeah. We're here to have a good time. And I can say this, when we did our Valentine's social, which you were at, I went up there to thank everyone for coming, but I was really adamant and I loved it. And I think I'm going to continue to do it at every event. Nobody's here to hear me talk. Thank you for coming out. Enjoy your night. Keep enjoying it. Party hard and party on. Thank you so much. This is great. Keep coming out. But that should be it. Not we've struggled so long and we're finally here. Luckily for our organization, we had so many great people come before us that we haven't had to fight as hard. In some areas, we've had to fight with the new stuff because you know they didn't experience a global pandemic like we did. You know. But, you know, taking what we can take from the parents who were above us, who pioneered all the services in our area, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for them. Yeah. And outside of that, I mean, now we're at this point where everyone is talking about friendships. And the way to do it is to get out and engage, but also you're going to live longer.
Absolutely. There are health benefits to having at least one friend.
So our new tagline is going to be, come on out so you don't die.
There we go. Very catchy.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. We're going to try to do more things like this, I feel. And then if anyone ever wants to reach out, Brooke has many ways. You can always email parentingautismunited@gmail.com or go to our website, parentingautismunited.org. And Brooke has Golden Opportunities. Go ahead and talk a little bit just about that.
Yeah, so I am working on creating a private practice for autism, applied behavior analysis, and it's not linked with insurance, so I can go and work on things that insurance is going to tell you no on. Yeah, I will. You
travel a lot.
Yeah, I do, and I can take it with me wherever. So I know I'm planning to move in the next couple of months. If I start a relationship and I start working with you here, I can take you with me the next place I go. I'm trying to keep it telehealth so that way it's easily able to schedule in. We can do a phone call. We can meet virtually, whatever, because I know life is chaotic. Not everyone works a 9 to 5 and no one's available 9 to 5, but they're working 9 to 5.
Yeah. In 9 to 5, I don't know when that ever existed for me. I was a waitress. I worked 9 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 2. Yeah. So it's just really neat to have somebody with, you know, just like that outside perspective who doesn't already have all the answers ready to go. Yeah. And who can not necessarily be creative, but understand that not everything is textbook.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's really not. They're still learning so much about this.
I'm learning every single day. Every time I come here and do a training, I learn new information to teach other people because it's out there and I don't know it all.
And it's not just, that's what the thing too, like what we do isn't just for parents.
Mm-mm.
It's for businesses, it's for professionals, it's for teachers. And that's where it's really getting easier to tell people what we do because we can do it all. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
So it's what do you want? That's what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Do you not know what you want? We can help you find out what you need.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you're going to come in here and it's going to be like, oh, I needed to hear, yes, that's exactly what I was thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
Or I didn't know I could do that. And now I do.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate all the time you put into everything that you always do. And we do have a nice little series set up. So our next one is going to be on May 15th. And that's on sleep.
It is going to be on sleep. So I'm going to talk to people and give them a plan for developing a sleep schedule or sleep routine because sleep is a big issue with individuals with autism. They sleep differently than we do. So I'm going to give you some statistics. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks of how to combat sleep if sleep's an issue. If it's not, great. But also you, with a diagnosis or without a diagnosis, may learn something to help you sleep better.
Oh, I'm so excited. And I want to go to sleep right now.
Yeah.
Anytime we talk about sleep. No, not that. I'm just saying I'm always sleep deprived.
Yes.
So I'm very excited to hear about that one. But again, it'll be somewhat similar. People can always join, but it is a very casual interaction just like this.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can always, how would they contact you directly if they wanted to ask you questions about anything from today or future topics?
Yes. So I have an email. It's goldenopportunitiesaba@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out at any time. I have an Instagram, which is a little bit more busy than my Facebook is. So the Instagram is Golden Opportunities ABA. You can find me. I give free resources, free information. I'm always ready to chit chat and answer a question that maybe someone won't answer for you or you don't know where to find the resource. I'll get it for you.
Well, we're definitely going to link that into our website under resources, but we'll also put anything like that in the comments to any posts that we put because this will be made into a YouTube link, and then when we share that on all the other socials, that'll be in the comments and things there. I usually when I watch this stuff, it's like, information's all on my bio and things like that. We're not there yet. We're working on it, but no, thank you so much. And I know you have a long drive back. She was in person today at the Dallas location, and I just hope the next time isn't going to be from like California or something, but who knows?
No, the rest of this year I should be here in PA, and then we'll see what happens next.
Well, hey, California sounds pretty good to me right now. It's still too
sunny.
cold up here for me. All right, thank you so much. We're going to stop the screen and see how this goes.
Hopefully recorded.
I don't think we recorded anything.
Oh, don't tell me that.
Hold on. Share.
It screamed at us.
Yeah, stop sharing.
Stop recording.
There it is. I can't see anything.
Stop recording.
Oh, there we go. I'm like so tired.
That's all right. We're all.
This is us. This is going to be the best part of the thing. It's like, how do we turn it off?